Hello there, my name is Tom Marshall. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. It means a great deal. Today we are going to look at Edgar Wright's The Running Man. Is this just another remake that we have seen countless times over the years, or is this something much, much more? We shall find out because we are going to look at The Running Man. So the film is directed by Edgar Wright, a director you may know from such films as the Cornetto trilogy, which is the Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, also Baby Driver. And here he is with his latest film, a remake of the popular 1987 film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Running Man, which is also adapted from the popular Stephen King novel of the same name. Let's get into it. Okay, so the film centers around character Ben Richards, who has a family who he's trying to take care of, a wife and a daughter. His daughter is sick, and this is set in the year 2025 in a dystopian universe where the rich are rich and the poor are poor. And so medicines are very hard to come by and very expensive. Now, Ben Richards is actually been trying to find work for as long as possible, but has actually been blacklisted by the corporations because of what he did in the past. Essentially, what he did was go against the corporation he was working for to help his friends out because he felt they were doing some bad things to the workers, and essentially he fails in his lawsuit, and because of that, he is blacklisted everywhere and can't get work, and has become so desperate that he needs to, in order to protect his family, in order to help them, enter in one of the blood sport competitions that they have running on the TV networks. So he's sitting at home and he's trying to figure out which best one to do that is the least risk, and he's going through the schools and being like, okay, so this person's made this much on this game show, being very sort of like analytical with the research. And so he tells his wife that he's going to enter into one of these competitions, but his wife doesn't really approve, but she does understand the fact that they need to earn money to help their sick daughter. It's out of pure desperation that leads him to the network that is running these competitions. See what I did there? Play on words. So he decides to go to these tryouts for the blood sport competitions, not necessarily for the Running Man just yet, but we'll come to that in a minute. But he tries out, he's successful in doing all the tryouts and all the different types of events that they've got to do, and is pretty much scoring top marks in pretty much every mission that he's on. And so he gets through to basically the final phase and a meeting with the head of the network, played by Josh Brolin, Dan Killian. And so he's having a meeting with him, and he's very charming. He's sort of trying to sway him in a slightly different direction and sees potential in Ben Richards, and almost to a point where he's very much convincing not only Ben Richards but also the audience as well. He's that good. And so reluctantly, Ben Richards goes and tries out for the Running Man. And so the idea of the Running Man is you basically have to survive for 30 days and you win $1 billion. And the catch is the entire world is able to hunt you down, and also there are 5 or 6 hunters that are specifically trained to hunt down and kill you as well. The presenter of The Running Man is presented and played by Coleman Domingo, who plays Bobby T and is very charismatic and very entertaining as the presenter of The Running Man, and is there to essentially tell the audience what is going on, and is also constantly commentating on what is going on in The Running Man. And because all these cameras are focused on Ben Richards. He's the one that is surviving. He's the one that's bringing in the ratings. He is the one that is essentially winning the event. And so they focus all the attention on Ben Richards because they feel he might have the best chance of survival and also, yeah, boosting their ratings with every action he makes, every kill, every word he says, and so on. He also gets a wristband, which gives him updates on everything that is going on in the games. Also, every day he has to record a message for the public to see what's going on in his mind and just to tell his story and just to talk to the camera a little bit and what's update everybody of what's going on. And so essentially, yeah, he has to survive for 30 days on the run. At the end, he should win either $1 billion or just enough just to sort of keep his family alive and keep his daughter alive. First of all, I feel like Edgar Wright did a pretty good job with this. It is definitely an Edgar Wright film. It very much follows a lot of his directorial tropes that he uses in his films. Essentially, he likes a fast cut from one thing to another, which is really sort of, Edgar Wright down to a T. What I also enjoyed was the opening montage of Ben Richards walking from his apartment to the networks for The Running Man with a really great soundtrack over the top, which he does really well. His intros to his films are brilliant, especially as well in like Baby Driver. He does a very sort of similar thing here. So yeah, so he directs film really, really well, and he puts his own take and his own spin on an action film. So his direction is very good. Also, his casting is very good. I think Glenn Powell is very entertaining as a leading man, and the fact that Glenn Powell actually went to Tom Cruise to help him with his sprint work, and the fact that Tom Cruise is actually championing Glenn Powell as becoming like the next movie star, as it were, which is really good to see. And their connection comes from the Top Gun Maverick film that he did years ago. So he's definitely got that star quality about him. He certainly has the physique for it as well. You can tell that he really trained hard for this role. It looks like he did quite a lot of his own stunts as well. Some of the action sequences he's involved in are pretty amazing. So yeah, he does a very good job in this, and he has presence as well, which is great. Every frame of the film that he's in, you're glued and you're focused on what he's doing. Also, the supporting cast are tremendous. Josh Brolin as the head of the studio, Dan Killian, was very, very good. He's just charming his way through as the villain of the piece and very convincing at times, scarily, bringing like element of Thanos to it as well. So really great. And yeah, I've not seen Coleman Domingo in a lot recently, but his portrayal of Benny T as the presenter of The Running Man is really, really good. Yeah, very charismatic, very full of life in this role. So yeah, casting and directing, I think, really, really great, and all the stunts and things like that. Uh, what I liked about it was the fact that it's very much a story of our time, where it's about how these big corporations and networks have a lot of power, or maybe too much power, some might say. However, get as much information as possible and try and manipulate and change the information for their benefit in order to boost ratings and in order to help increase sales and all that sort of stuff. And very much like what's happening now in our time. And they were doing this also in the 1987 film. They were manipulating footage, they were manipulating voice and through the computers. And even back then in 1987, they were doing that. So it's very much a big talking point. And so I find that these subjects told in an entertaining and fun way are a great way of getting the conversation going about these types of themes. So really good on that front. I did like the hunters. I thought they were a good part of the film, very much like the hunters in the original film. However, I do feel like the hunters should have had like a little bit more personality to them, something that would differentiate each hunter, maybe have like a different type of specialization. Whereas I felt like a lot of the hunters were quite generic, in my opinion. There were times also that a few characters I didn't understand why they were there in the first place. And William H. Macy is in this. He just randomly turns up and don't really have like an explanation as to sort of what his connection to Ben Richards is, really, unless I missed it and didn't see it. There are times where the story just like plateaus a little bit. I thought Michael Cera was okay as well as the eccentric sort of activist, as it were, shed a light on these corporations and networks, and does a good job at trying to convince Ben Richards that what he's doing is just a lot more than being on a game show. He's actually sort of helping the cause in some way. And so, yeah, I mean, he's very quirky, but essentially, I'm not entirely sure why he's there, but he's there nonetheless. There were some funny moments with the water gun, and his house is very much, I'd say, inspired by Home Alone. There's a lot of like booby traps and things like that that he set up. They must have looked at Home Alone and thought, there we go, let's have some of that in there. So yeah, I mean, overall, I feel that this film was actually really quite good. Glenn Powell is very much a rising star at the moment and is very good at the whole leading man role, which seems to be fading these days. But he's very, very good. And so I would definitely recommend go and see this film. Yeah, it's not quite as like nostalgic or as cartoonish or as mental as the original film, but that was a different era, that was a different time. Gonna be more modern, it's gonna be more of today. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no coincidence as well that this film was released in 2025, which is when the book is set. The book came out in the early 80s, and so Stephen King, this was his idea of what 2025 was going to look like. 100% accurate, but some of the themes and ideas behind it, not bad, not far off. Not far off. There were a few times where they tried to throw in a few cheesy one-liners in there. Like at one point, it does say, I'll be back, and a few others. And, it's almost like they were poking fun at the one-liners of that time. I don't think they quite worked in this instance, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, they tried with that idea. What are you going to do? Can't please everyone. Also, Arnold does make an appearance. He's actually on the money, kind of like Queen or the King or on the English pound or whatever. So he is on the money. So there's a little bit of a callback there to the original. Also, how the game show is set up with with the dancing girls, the presenters, and also how the runners actually enter into the competition through the water slides, I guess, as it were, and they're sort of like trapped into this machine and they drop down into the games, and that's all very reminiscent of the original film. They had that as well. Stephen King's novel was more wider scope than the original 1987 film. They didn't have the budget, nor did they have the ability to allow them to spread sort of around the country and to allow to go further afield. They were sort of, due to like their budgetary restraints, were only able to sort of focus on studio, and that was it. And so Arnold has said that one film that he wished he could remake was actually The Running Man, so that it can make it sort of more true to the books, which they kind of do here. And I do like the fact that in the end, Ben Richards becomes a bit of a cult hero to the people and sort of represents the people as well. And yeah, he's very, very good. Very good film. Highly recommend it. Definitely go out and see it in the cinemas. And yeah, really great. 5 out of 5 for me. Definitely an evolution of filmmaking for Edgar Wright. So yeah, check it out. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.